Thanks for checking out this Game of Thrones review video. So this is for, as the title says, Season 8, Episode 2. I'm going to go all the way through Season 8. So just so you know up front, if you didn't watch my first one, maybe you should. The other thing is, you definitely should know, if you haven't watched Season 8, well, any of Season 8, do not watch this. Spoilers, it's like all spoilers. It's all spoilers, okay? Just so you know. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm just going to kind of walk through my thoughts as I was watching the episode. Like last time, I had my notes here. Just going to kind of tell you my feelings. Let's just talk about this stuff a little bit. So, first of all, it starts with people kind of saying, oh no, Cersei Lannister screwed us all over. She's screwing us all over. And Jaime's like, I'm real sorry, man. I thought she would be good this time. And Tyrion's like, man, she duped me again. But this is the thing. Who didn't see this coming? Like, she's an established liar, not just in the show, but like in their reality. She is a professional liar, and no one has known her to be anything else. For them to think that what they pitched it to her last season about, oh, it's about preserving life in our realm and all this stuff, you have to know, for her, it's just like, don't care, because she's not on the front lines. She's not that type of person. She doesn't think in those terms. All she thinks of is her own power, and she would rather die and have everyone die with her and have the world basically end as long as she's in power when it happens. Just saying. And everyone should know this. So there's kind of this moment of like, everyone's like, people really are like, really, you didn't understand? But it's kind of like that for every character. It's like, really? There's anyone that even thought this was a possibility? But anyways, you know, it's in the script. Some people are supposed to, you know. But as an audience member, you feel me. I'm sure you feel me. Everyone knew this was coming. This is not a surprise to anyone. Did anyone out there actually, put it in the comments, did you actually think that Cersei was turning around? Please, I would like to know. The interesting thing about when Jaime's in Winterfell and he's talking to them saying, you know, I'm here, I want to help out, he looks haggard. He looks broken. Like, if you've been watching the entire show from season 1 on, you know what he's gone through. You know the changes he's made. So he's a much better person now, but at the same time, like, he's lost so much, he's gone through so much, so he looks haggard and broken because he basically is haggard and broken. And I think they really did a good job of making him look that way, and I think he, the actor, also did a good job of acting that way and showing it facially and in his mannerisms when he's standing there in front of everyone, kind of as they're like holding court in Winterfell. So I thought that was really good. When that was going on, by the way, you could feel the tension at that table between Sansa, Jon Snow, and Daenerys. That tension was just, it was thick. And when Daenerys kind of made the decision, you know, we should just let this guy live, I forgive him because Brienne's sticking up for him. She says he's different. She says he's worth keeping around. He could definitely help us. Like, you know, it's the right decision, and it seems like the right decision as the audience member. But I don't know if it was just me, but to me it also kind of felt like it was Sansa taking a jab at Daenerys, and she was partially doing it just to spite her. I mean, that's just kind of how it felt. Once again, put a comment down there, let me know. Did you feel that same way, or did it just come off as only just a intelligent decision? To me, it seemed kind of dual purpose. It was like, well, this is kind of the way I should do it, but at the same time, you know, screw you, Daenerys. I know you're not going to like this one. And at that moment, it shows you how vengeance-driven Daenerys still is. And I know that's something that, as her character has developed from season 1 to now, she went from being a very benign person, a very sweet person, very innocent person, and going through so much and becoming who she is now. And for a good while, she was really focused on doing the right thing and doing well for people. But what it seems like at this point is she still has that in mind, and I think she still says that, and I think she still tells herself that's what she's doing, but her actions and what she says kind of seems a little bit more like it's vengeance driven. It's, this is my birthright, you know, what did they do to my family? I'm gonna get them all back for it, which makes her no better than someone like Cersei in the first place. Actually, a lot of people kind of have that bent in this story. You know, Stannis is kind of that way as well. Renly, you know, everyone. It's just, so just an interesting observation. I just feel like Daenerys has become less and less of a good person as time's gone on, which is also really interesting because there's a juxtaposition then between someone like Jaime Lannister, who was a pretty awful person immediately in the show, and as the show's gone on, he's softened up a lot. He's become, like I was saying, broken and haggard, and has through that become much better. Same with the Mountain. You know, there's a good scene in this episode where the Mountain and I'm sorry, not the Mountain, the Hound. I'm sorry, the Hound. Sandor Clegane is talking with Arya Stark, and he's kind of showing her through his personality change that he is a different person. He is a better person. He has changed. He has developed. He's become more mature in a sense. And so it's like him and Jaime, and they're making this big kind of 180, whereas people that started so great are making the reverse 180, like Daenerys seems to kind of be doing. Sansa to a degree, like she's still pretty good, but she's also like super bitter. She's still kind of like vengeance driven, although once she kind of like forgave Theon Greyjoy when he came back, that kind of seems more like a turning point of her kind of coming back to how she used to be, being more innocent, being more kind of like good driven in a sense. But also like Arya's a big one. She has had a gigantic change, and she is still doing things for the good, the right purpose, but she is 100% vengeance driven. I mean, she has let some people loose for the moment. We don't know that this won't change, but people like the Hound who are on her list. Obviously, she let Beric Dondarrion off her list. Well, I guess I can't say obviously, but she alluded to the fact that she let him off her list during this episode when she was talking with the Hound and Beric Dondarrion. She said he was on the list for a little bit, but she still seems pretty focused on the vengeance thing. So it's very interesting to see who's changed for the better, who's changed for the worse, and what their motivations are currently. Because one of the other things is, with the big thing that happens at the end, which I'll talk about it a little bit more a little bit later, but it with the interaction between Daenerys and Jon Snow at the very end there, when they're talking in like the crypts, it seems like she's jealous, and the wheels are turning with her of, oh my gosh, this potentially means I'm not going to get what I want. So it kind of shows that things are more based on like her getting power and her vengeance and all that, which shows that, you know, she's been rising to the level of Cersei Lannister in a sense throughout the series. Cersei has not softened at all, as we all know. She's gone nowhere. She's been the same person. So, yeah, and it kind of seemed to me like attitude-wise that kind of the Lannisters and the Starks, and when I say the Lannisters, I just mainly mean Jaime and Tyrion, that their overall attitudes have changed and become more soft and more pragmatic, versus how the Starks have changed, and they're way more like salty and vengeance-driven and hardened and callous, you know. So it's kind of interesting to see these personality shifts. It's like they just kind of switch sides, which is interesting. Tyrion is right. The part where he was talking about how he didn't think he'd be dying at Winterfell, and he's very much right in the point that he makes that a death there is depressing. I mean, look at it. It's such a glum place. I mean, I'm sure no one wants to die there. So it's, ugh. I mean, it makes you think with these characters, what is going through their minds at that moment? How many of them are like, not just like, I can't believe I'm going to die, but I can't believe I'm going to die here in this place where there's like no foliage. It's just snow everywhere. It's cold as hell. It's just bleak, and it only gets more bleak when the White Walkers come in town, as we all know. Podrick, man, the scene where Podrick's kind of training and Brienne's watching him, and then Jaime comes up, he's looking like a boss. Like, look at how far that guy's come. I feel like they haven't super closely like watched his progression, and so seeing him in this episode being as much of a boss as he was, kind of seemed like a little bit of a leap. Not like it's, you know, doesn't make sense, but I'm just saying, like, we haven't seen much of a progression of him getting all that much better. Saw it a little bit, but he wasn't like super focused on. So it kind of makes you wonder if like he was initially supposed to be more of like a super small supporting role in the show and in the book, so story overall, but he's definitely become a lot more, and I like that. I like his character. He's cool. The whole point where Jamie was saying that he came there because it would be his honor to serve under Brienne seems like a euphemism. Anyone else with me on that? Seems like euphemism. He doesn't want to be under Brienne in a sense, and you could cut that sexual tension with a knife right there. Just like you could cut the sexual tension between Brienne and Tormund, but actually that's just kind of a one-sided ordeal. Although, is it? Because I think the part where they're kind of hanging out in front of the fire and drinking wine, and Tormund, I guess, is drinking giant boob milk. I don't know. Kind of alluded to. It seems like there's a slight slip up where she lets an emotion get into what she's saying to Tormund, and then she corrects herself, where she says that, like, I think she says it's like, it's good to have him there. And then she, like, corrects it. She's like, oh, I'm, for the fight. And she kind of looks at Jamie at that point, kind of like, I don't know if that was more she's trying to make sure she doesn't give Jamie the idea that she would have any interest in Tormund because he's clearly showing interest in her, or if it's a slip-up where she's showing, like, she does have an inkling of an interest in Tormund. So, I don't know. Another thing, comments, what do you guys think? Let's see. Daenerys says she's about the greater good. Yeah. That's just kind of a rehash of what I was already saying. Like, she says it numerous times still, but you can kind of see it in her actions, especially in the way she talks to people and the way she makes decisions. It's very much about, we got to put the fist down, you got to make sure people know I'm the person, it's me, which to a degree you have to do that, but at the same time it seems like she becomes even more and more and more focused on that as the story has gone on, and she's having a hard time breaking this new way of thinking and going back to how she was, where she was thinking more, I need to do this for the people. It seems way more like she's doing it for her. So, but we'll see where that ends up leading. Maybe I'm wrong. The part where Davos, which I love Davos Seaworth, where he's ladling out the soup, and the one guy's kind of like, oh, I'm not a soldier, and he's afraid to die. I just wrote down, like, Davos, he is not good at pep talks at all. He should never do that again, because he literally was like, we're probably all gonna die. Just suck it up, man. And he was like, I mean, I lived through some stuff, so maybe you can live through some stuff. But yeah, it was so uninspiring. That guy walks away, and I was just like, that guy's just like, I'm wearing a red shirt. Am I a red shirt here? I don't. Yeah, that guy's gonna die. Definitely one of the great things about this particular episode is seeing even more of the characters come together in one place. Let me fix this light. It's a little off-ish. Okay, that's better. Seeing all these characters get together, in the first episode of season 8, a lot of the characters are getting together. This episode, they're even more showing up, and it's pretty awesome. It's just really cool to see all these people getting together in one place, assembling, they've always been a part of one large story, but now it's much easier to see. It's closer knit story that's tying them all together, and it's just cool to see. I kind of thought of it, for me, a little bit akin to the first time I saw the very first Avengers movie, where I was like, oh man, I've seen a bunch of these people individually in their own movies, and they're super awesome, and here they are, like, working as a team. It's so cool to see them together. So that's just kind of how it felt to me in this episode, and that's one of the best things. That probably is the best thing about this episode, to be honest. So when they were all getting together and talking, and Tormund is trying to entertain everyone because he's a gigantic blowhard, to be honest. I love how much of a realist he is. He's such an excellent realist, is what I wrote down. When he quotes, I quote him, he said, "We're all going to die, but at least we die together." I mean, that's pretty much all you can say, to be honest. And then from there, you kind of see, like, what's everyone focusing on while it's potentially their last night alive. And some people are like, let's just get hammered. Some people are like, let's, talk and feel better about the relationships we have with some people. Let's mend some relationships. Brienne becomes knighted by Jaime. That's great. Arya bones Gendry, which, did anyone else feel like that was kind of like gross / wrong? I mean, only in the sense that, like, when we started this show, and I'm talking about we as the audience, when we started this show, she's a kid, and, like, I feel like her features are very much still kid-like, so that she seems like a kid still, so it just seemed gross to me. Because I don't know if anyone else is like that. Like, do you still view her as like a child? Because I still do. Even though she's been through as much as she's been, she still has a really small stature. She still looks super, super young. So when that started happening, like, I saw it going there, and I was like, can we? Yeah. And it was actually funny because my wife came home from the gym while I was sitting there on the couch watching this, like literally when that scene was developing, and she looked at my face, and, like, I don't know what the look on my face was, probably something like, and she was like, what is going on? And I was like, guys, they're about to bone, I don't really, it's a little weird. So she just kind of like took a quick look and was just like, walked away. But it just, I don't know, it didn't seem right to me. I mean, if you're gonna throw in any sex scene, I guess the one that would make the most sense would probably be Jaime and Brienne, because that's been building for some time. I understand how Arya was like, I've never had sex before, let's do this, and that makes a lot of sense. But from like a show standpoint, it would have made more sense from what the show is laid out if Brienne and Jaime were getting it on. Not that I want to see that, not that anyone necessarily wants to see that, but because it'd just be like, I bet they'd still wear their armor. Well, they did it. Just saying. It'd be super unsexy, but whatever. But I thought the Arya Gendry one was super unsexy too, so I don't know. Not that, sex scenes always have to be that way, but whatever. The other thing I wrote down is, like, I understand the impact of romance in this. I really do. But the amount of romance they put in between, like, Grey Worm and Missandei, it just seemed like they just threw it in. They're just like, oh yeah, we haven't talked about these people. We haven't seen these people for a while. So we should just be like, oh, we really miss you. Like, I understand because they did lay the groundwork for their love affair, I guess you would say. Although he doesn't have genitals, so you don't really know what would happen. And I don't know. But to me, it just seemed more like, look, we don't have time for this. We, the audience, we don't have time for this. Let's get moving, please. I mean, I know some of these episodes are going to end up being longer, but that doesn't mean that you need to drag your feet with kind of really unnecessary stuff. And for me, the Grey Worm Missandei stuff in this episode was, like, very unnecessary. As well as some of the dialogue that was going on. Like, it was a pretty slow episode, to be honest. It really was. But I understand, they're building up, and I think the whole focus of this episode was to naturally, which ends up being slowly, bring these characters together in the same place so that we can build up the tension and get everyone re-familiar with each other, make sure everyone's happy with each other and on the same page and united in this effort. Then let's kill some of them. Maybe in the next episode, I don't know. So then it'll have more of an impact on the audience. That's my thought. But I just didn't care for the romance stuff all that much. What I felt like for this, like the tension building of, like, you could feel that here they go. They're getting everything ready for the war. They're, setting up the defenses. Everyone's talking about going to war. Everyone's talking about, what are the White Walkers like? How is this going to be? We're all going to die. That type of stuff. So, like, the tension and the buildup was good. And it felt kind of, to me, the same way I felt when I watched for the first time Lord of the Rings Two Towers, when everything was building up and getting ready for that kind of a castle defense massive battle. It kind of feels like that build up, so I'm really hoping that we get something kind of that magnitude. That would be awesome. I mean, I assume that's what's going to end up happening because they took 2 years to do this season, and they have said we're, like, going all out, like we're doing the big finale, so hopefully it lives up to what we're all thinking the hype is. Oh, and then I just kind of wrote down, like, with everyone kind of doing their things before they're potentially going to die, it just makes me think, like, what would, if you were in that situation, or me, as I was thinking about it, what would I be doing? What would you be doing? I mean, in my current situation, me being married, I would definitely spend all of my remaining time with my wife. But if I was in one of the situations with one of those characters where I didn't have a wife or anyone really, I'd probably just try to get some laughs in, to be honest. Um, like laugh before you're going into a really terrible, dire, serious situation. So yeah, I'd probably just want to find someone to tell some jokes with and just mess around, have some laughs and some fun for the last time. So yeah, the Arya sex scene was weird. I'd written it down. It did seem like there was a lot of wasting time in this episode. I know I talked about that a little bit, but like I said, like I know it was trying to build things. I know it was trying to bring everyone together. So like I get it, and it was still enjoyable, but it also seemed a little too slow. And I was kind of like, can you just give us like maybe a little bit of action? Like maybe they send out like a scout to figure out where the White Walkers are, or a little band of scouts to figure that out, and then they get into like a mini skirmish, like a mini fight with the White Walkers. Just give us like a little taste, a little something to whet our appetite for the next one. To make us want it even more. You know what I'm saying? Um, so the yeah, so one of the other things that occurred to me towards the end of this, when the conversation was happening in the crypt between Daenerys and Jon Snow, well, Aegon Targaryen and Daenerys Targaryen, it's finally revealed, which that also, was anyone surprised at this point about that? Like, I feel like everyone has known that that's the situation since like season 3, maybe even season 2, maybe even season 1, because it's not a well kept secret really. um so anyway, but when they were talking, it made me think, oh man, have they actually had sex? Like, we haven't seen it in the show, but it could have been off show. They could have had sex. We don't know. We at least saw them kiss. And then it just made me think, like, they're Jamie and Cersei right now, kind of, in that sense. They're like the good version of the bad Jamie and Cersei. So, because, brother, sister lovers. You know what I mean? And then the other thing, the last episode related thing that I had written down was at the end when you see kind of the White Walker army coming up and stopping and kind of looking at Winterfell, which everyone had to know this is the cliffhanger where they're going to stop it. Those White Walker horses look badass. Like, have you ever seen a more badass looking horse than a White Walker horse? Not me. Like, honestly, the White Walkers sitting on those horses kind of don't look badass. Like, they kind of look, I don't know, they look like LARPers maybe. And like, I'm not trying to discourage say anything bad about LARPers or discourage LARPers, because I personally know some people who LARP and they're great people. But what people think of as the stereotypical LARPer is kind of what I'm saying. But yeah, those horses look crazy badass. Like how they started the shot, like with its hoofs down at the bottom and starts panning up, and you can see that it's kind of just like bones and sinew left. It just looked good, man. And like the horse skull head, yeah, it's cool. So the final thing I actually wrote down are my hopes. This better be an epic battle scene in the next episode, and they better not waste a whole lot of time getting into that. I would love, 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 and this is what I'm expecting, that they make episode 3 the whole entirety of the episode just about a battle. They've done that before in some other seasons where almost an entire episode has been a big battle. That's what I want to see here. I know that's what we all want to see right here. We want to see him go big or go home, get that battle in. But we know that after the next episode, there's still 3 more episodes. So there will be more battles. So it also makes me like, will they really get in the big battle? Are they going to waste a bunch more time and then do a little bit of battling? I don't know. But I'm hoping very little time is wasted in the beginning and they get into the battle. So that's how I feel about this. That was Season 8, Episode 2 of Game of Thrones. People, your personal feelings, put it down there. Let's talk about it in the comments. Please, if you enjoyed anything about this or any of my videos, hit that subscribe. I really appreciate that. I do need to give a star rating on this because I gave a star rating on the last one. So the last one I gave a 4. This one I'm going to step it down to a 3. Because even though I said it was enjoyable, super slow, really wasn't a whole lot that happened during this. Did feel like a lot of time wasting, even though it was still enjoyable. But for that reason, I gotta give it 3 stars. Still over half. It's still enjoyable. So let me know your thoughts. Likes are cool. Like I said, subscribe. And if you know someone who would like these Game of Thrones reviews or anything that I do on this channel, please let them know because that helps me out a lot. And you'd be awesome for that. But I will see you guys next week when we talk about episode 3, which is hopefully better than episode 2. Thank you very much, and until next time, keep it brutal.